And can you please let people in? Would Galaxy Tab please type in chat who they are? You must identify yourself. Thank you.
Galaxy Tab, could you please let us know your name in chat for our security? Thank you.
I will announce that to everybody. No, 105.
Hello, Bev.
Good morning, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Rabbi Rebecca's having a well-earned break, and Alex, who was going to be leading the service, is unfortunately unwell. We wish her well. And so you're stuck with me for the service today. Our service this morning is service number 1, which you can find on page 105. And we begin, as always, with Ma Tovu. Please stand. Ma Tovu, Ma Tovu, Oalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael, Ma Tovu, Please be seated. As we say the prayers of our ancestors, help us, O God, to remember their faith and devotion, their joy and suffering, and make us worthy of our heritage. May the tradition we have received live in us and pass from us to generations we shall never know, enriched by the truth that we have found and the good we have done. So may we fulfill our task on earth and receive our blessing. Eternal God, school us in your teachings and make us loyal to your commandments. May we never consent to evil or surrender to temptation or self-contempt. Help us to rise above selfishness and make us responsive to the voice of conscience. Direct our every impulse to your service. Today and every day, may we merit kindness and compassion in your sight and in the sight of all who behold us, and let us know your love. Baruch atah Adonai, gomel chasadim tovim. Shachavakeshcha tzuri umiskabi, eroch lefanecha shachri v'gamarmi, lifnei gedulatav emod ve'ebahel, ki en kartirye kol machshavot libi, mazeh asher yuchal halev v'halashon lasot u'makoach ruchi b'toch kirbi, hinei lecha titav zimrat enosh, al kein odecha be'od tishye nishmat Eloabi. Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam baruch hu. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, hamahulal b'fi amo, meshuvach u'mefo'ar bilshon chasidav va'avadav, bishvachot u'vizmirot negadelecha v'namlichecha malkeinu yachid chei ha'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, melech mehulal b'tishbachot. Ashrei yoshvei veitecha, od ya'alelucha selah. Ashrei ha'am shekachalo, ashrei ha'am she'adonai Eloham. V'anachnu nevarech Yah me'ata ve'ad olam. Hallelujah. We continue with the Yishtabach on page 111. Please stand. Yishtabach shimcha la'ad malkeinu, ha'el ha'melech ha'gadol v'ha'kadosh b'shamayim u'ba'aretz. Ki lecha na'eh Adonai Eloheinu, v'Elohei avoteinu. Shir u'shvacha, halel v'zimra, brachot v'hodaot, me'ata ve'ad olam. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher b'shirei zimra. We now turn to the Baruch Hu on page 135. Baruch Hu et Adonai Please be seated. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzei or uvore choshech, oseh shalom uvore et hakol. Hameir la'aretz veladarim aleha berachamim, uvetuvo mechadesh bechol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam b'chokma asita, mal'a ha'aretz kinyanecha. Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu ve'al shevech ma'aseh yadecha ve'al me'orei or she'asita yefa'arucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMa'orot. Great is your love for us, eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. Be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching. Make us faithful to your commandments and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael ve'ahava. Please stand for the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך. וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Please be seated. Good and beautiful and true, sound, established and enduring are these words now and forever. True it is, Eternal One, that you are our sovereign God and Redeemer, as you were the God and Redeemer of our ancestors. You are our Maker, the rock of our salvation. We have known you always as our helper and our liberator. There is no God but you. Truly, you are first and you are last. We have no Redeemer but you. You redeemed us from Egypt and freed us from the house of bondage. Then, with great joy, Moses, Miriam, and all Israel together sang to you this song. שירה חדשה שבחו גאולים לשמך על שפת הים. יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל קומה Ezrat Yisrael. Go Aleinu Adonai Tzvaot Shemo. Go Aleinu Adonai Tzvaot Shemo. Kadosh Yisrael. Baruch Atah Adonai Gal Yisrael. Our service continues on page 140 with the Amidah. Please stand. Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Ufi Agid Tehilatecha. Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Ufi Agid Tehilatecha. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, ve'Koneh Hakol, ve'Zocher Chasdei Avot ve'Imahot, u'Meivi Geula Livnei v'Neihem, Laman Shemo Be'ahava. Melech Hoseh u'Moshia u'Magen. Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Meitim Atah Rav le'Hoshia. Mashiv haruach u'morid hageshem, Mazriach hashemesh u'morid hatal. Mekalkel chayim b'chesed, mechaye meitim b'rachamim rabim. Somek noflim v'rofech cholim, umatir asurim, umagayem emunato b'shenei afar. Vichamocha al gedorot u'midom elav. Melech mimid u'machayeh u'matzmiach Yeshua. V'ne'emar atah l'chachayot meitim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hametim. We sanctify your name on earth as in the prophet's vision. The host of heaven sings your praise above, for so it is written. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaot, Malov kol haaretz kevodo. Kevodo malei olam, Baruch atah Adonai mimkomo. Mimkomecha malkeinu tofia v'timloch aleinu, ki mechakim anachnu lach. Yimloch Adonai leolam, Elohai Yitzion, Vador, Hallelujah. Ledovador, 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 Nagid God lecha, Ulanetzach netzakim, Ulanetzach netzakim, Kedushatcha nakdish, Ledovador, 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 Nagid God lecha, Ulanetzach netzakim, Ulanetzach netzakim, Kedushatcha nakdish, V'shivcha Eloheinu, Mipinu lo yamush leolam ba.
הקדוש ברוך הוא, לטוב הדור, לטוב הדור, לטוב הדור נגיד עוד לך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש. Please be seated. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. מקדשי שבי שבת, כולם יסבלו ויתענגו מטובך השבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. בשביעי רצית בו וקידשת שבת. חמדת ימים אותו קראת שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. זכר למעשה בראשית שבת. זכר למעשה בראשית שבת. שבת ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת.
Our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Eternal One, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael, utefilatam be'ahava t'kabel, utehil ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha bi'ira na'avod. Modim anachnu lach, she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu le'olam va'ed. Tzur chayenu, magen yishenu, atahu lador vador. Nodeh lecha u'nesaper tehilatecha, al chayenu hamasurim biadecha, ve'al nishmotenu hapukudot lach, ve'al nisecha shebechol yom imanu, ve'al niflaotecha v'tovotecha, shebechol et erev v'avoker v'tzohorayim. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, u'lecha na'eh. להודות. שים שלום, שים שלום, שים שלום, טובה וברכה. חיים וחסד ורחמים,
Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom. As a loving parent, bless us with the light of your presence. And for by the light of your presence, eternal God, you have revealed to us the law of life, a love of kindness and righteousness, blessing and mercy, life and peace. For it is good in your sight that your people Israel and all peoples be blessed at all times with your gift of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, oseh hashalom. We now have a few moments for silent prayer or meditation. Adonai turi vegoali Adonai turi vegoali Ratzon irefi Lefanecha Adonai turi vegoali Adonai turi vegoali Say shalom bimromav, say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol bnei Adam. Say shalom bimromav, say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol bnei Adam. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. 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 Our service continues with the reading of Torah, which you can find on page 481. Ein kamocha va'Elohim Adonai Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadlul Adonai iti, Unaromama Shemo Yachdav. Do we have a Torah reader in the house? Fashionably late, John. Thank you for stepping in at the last minute.
I've just been learning it.
Don't give that away.
ברוך אדוני ברוך לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה. Right. וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בן ישראל לאמור, אישה כי תזריע וילדה זכר, וטמאה 7 ימים כי נדדבותה תטמא, וביום השמיני ימול בשר עורלתו, ו30 יום ו3 ימים תשב בדמי טהרה, בכל קודש לא תיגע, ולמקדש לא תביא, עד מלאת ימי טהרה. ואם נקבה תלד וטמאה 2 שבועים כנידתה, ו60 יום ו6 ימים תשב על דמי טהרה, ובמלאת ימי טהרה לבן או לבת תביא, כבש בן שנתו לעולה, ובן יונה או תור לחטאת, אל פתח אוהל מועד אל הכהן, והקריבו לפני אדוני וכיפר עליה, וטהרה ממקור דמיה. זו תורת היולדת לזכר או לנקבה, ואם לא תמצא ידה דייסה, ולקחה 2 תורים או 2 בני יונה, 1 לעולה ו1 לחטאת, וכיפר עליה הכהן וטהרה. Right. And God spoke to Moses, saying, a woman who conceives and gives birth shall remain unclean for 7 days, just as she is unclean during her menstrual period. And on the 8th day, the baby, the male baby, will be circumcised. She will then have to wait yet another 33 days for the purification of her blood to be completed. And during that period of time, she must not touch anything that is sacred, nor come to approach a tabernacle until this period of time has been completed. But if, on the other hand, she gives birth to a girl, then the period of uncleanliness is doubled. It's to 2 weeks, and she must wait 66 days for the process of purification to be completed. And at the end of this whole period of time, whether it be for a boy or a girl, she should bring a year-old lamb for a burnt offering and a pigeon or a dove for a sin offering. She should bring these to the entrance of the tent of meeting to the priest, who will then sacrifice these before God and atone for her, and in the process of doing so, ceremoniously cleanse her from the source of her bleeding. Those are the regulations and precepts regarding the birth of a male or female. But if, on the other hand, she cannot afford a lamb, then she should either take 2 doves or 2 pigeons, one for a burnt offering and one for a sin offering, and the priest shall atone for her and thereby ceremoniously purify her. So I was asked to do this last night, so I really haven't had much time to prepare, but one of the things that I like doing every week is getting into Facebook and reading what Rachel Elior has to say about the week's parasha. She is, for those of you who don't know her, she used to head up the faculty of Jewish thought at the Hebrew University, is a world authority on Jewish mysticism and on the Dead Sea Scrolls, and writes prolifically in Facebook about anything from Kafka to poetry to art and, of course, the Torah. And she gives her weekly dvar, where she goes and gives her interpretation, verse by verse, of the parasha. So I started reading it yesterday, and this morning I decided, well, just to throw some light on this a little bit, I'll do a quick translation of a couple of passages. I'm sure I'm not doing justice to her, because she writes very eloquently, and this is a very rushed translation, but it might throw a little bit of light on this parasha. And she begins as follows. Take me about, I think, 5 minutes. Is that okay? Parashat Tazria marks the 4th parasha of Leviticus. The parasha begins in chapter 12, verse 1, and concludes in chapter 13, verse 59. When not a leap year, this parasha is read together with Parashat Metzorah, the 5th parasha in the book of Leviticus, whose subject is exclusively the laws of purity and purification, as well as uncleanliness or defilement. So you've got 2 parashot that deal entirely with this in the book of Leviticus. The parasha begins with chapter 14, verse 1, and concludes chapter 15, verse 33. In general, these 2 parashot lead many readers to recoil and to flinch on account of the highly detailed consideration of matters relating to the pure and impure, to quarantine, to menstruation, and to various illnesses, including that of leprosy. But perhaps, he says, we should step back for a moment and try to understand the extraordinary priestly world outlook. And this is where it gets complicated. And I might have to sort of elaborate, because I'm chopping and changing and not doing justice to her. Which believes, as it does, in the eternal, in recurring cycles. And when she talks about recurring cycles, she talks about recurring cycles of nature, the year, the week, and also recurring cycles as dictated by divine ritual, the Shabbat, the leap year, the Jubilee, the festivals, and so on, have firm belief in that which can be calculated and known in advance. And here she's referring to a very, very important role that the priesthood had in ancient times, and that is the keeping of the calendar, the Jewish calendar, which was a huge advance for humanity. The calendar we take for granted today, but the calendar, what enabled society to organize around, was of enormous importance. And a lot of the rituals in the temple related to maintaining all aspects of the Jewish calendar, which, by the way, in those days was a solar calendar, not a lunar-based calendar. It was based on 365 days. So they had this outlook, and which was sacred to them, and which was held and firmly in people's collective memory, and constantly retold. All of which, the corpus of all of this, created a bridge that was constructed of the spoken word. Remember, we are people of the word, of narrative, of shared memory, of the book, of precepts, of law, of covenant and mitzvot, a construction which divides the eternal and the transient, the divine and the mortal, the timeless and the pure, engraved in tablets of the covenant, from that which is defiled, subject to death, whose fate is nothing but dust. All of these are brought to bear in mortal and everlasting battle against death, silence, capriciousness, oblivion, and all of which are represented by that which is impure and defiled. And this bridge, this edifice, is conditional on the strictest boundaries and limits which mark and define the pure and the impure, to mark off one from the other, where the pure is sacred, divine, and eternal, coming to the defense of life itself, to the defense of essential recurring life cycles, of the spoken word, of writing, of reading. The priesthood is engaged in an eternal battle for life against death, in the background of which contend the forces of the pure against the impure. And then she goes on to say, well, from the general to the particular, the principles underlying defilement, that which is defiled and unclean from that which is clean or pure, and which concern the bodies of both men and women, is that whatever in that ancient priestly outlook, that whatever is hidden from the eye is found within the human body, or everything which takes part in the mystery of life and is hidden, is always pure. As against this, anything that is secreted from the body, from one's private parts, that is seen or can be sensed by any one of our senses, such as the menstrual bleeding or semen or any other bodily secretion, is always impure. This is because the living, or that which creates life, is always hidden and therefore pure. For example, the blood in the mucosa of the womb, or the semen in the womb or in the testicles. But as soon as any of these are expelled from the body and become visible and no longer partake in the mystery of life-giving reproduction, then we have defilement, representative of death, which in turn requires purification, immersion in purifying water, sequestration, and strict enumeration, i.e. defining the length of the process. In another place, and Rachel is is a liberal Jew and a staunch feminist, wonderful person, has written some wonderful books. In another place, she writes very brutally that the expulsion of the unfertilized egg and or life-giving blood from the human body as part of the monthly menstrual period is seen as a missed opportunity for pregnancy and birth, or the death of potential life. And she concludes by saying that we, that is we women, are merely what remains from a missed pregnancy. So I just hope that this throws some light on this very, very difficult parasha. Anyhow, I forgot the blessing afterwards. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי העולם נטע בתוכנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Please stand for the raising of the scroll. Baruch Shem Adonai, Torah, Torah. Baruch Shem Adonai, Torah, Torah. Ve'amor Yisrael, b'kedushato. Romenu Adonai ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu ramenu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtacharu b'har kodsho ramenu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtacharu b'har kodsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu ramenu
We praise you, Eternal One, our God, Sovereign of the universe. You inspired faithful prophets and took pleasure in the words they spoke in truth. We praise you, O God, for the gift of Torah, your servant Moses, your people Israel, and the prophets of truth and righteousness. No. In order, yeah?
Read the Haftarah and then
Oh, I'm sorry. We praise you, Eternal One, our God, Sovereign of the universe. You have been our source of...
read the Haftarah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Excuse me, novice. This is what the Eternal says. Heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house you will build for me? Where will my resting place be? Has not my hand made all these things, and so they came into being, declares the Eternal? These are the ones I look on with favour, those who are humble and contrite in spirit and who tremble at my word. But whoever sacrifices a bull is like one who kills a person, and whoever offers a lamb is like one who breaks a dog's neck. Whoever makes a grain offering is like one who presents pig's blood, and whoever burns memorial incense is like one who worships an idol. They have chosen their own ways, and they delight in their abominations. And I also will choose harsh treatment for them, and will bring on them what they dread. For when I called, no one answered. When I spoke, no one listened. They did evil in my sight and chose what displeases me. Hear the word of the Eternal, you who tremble at his word. Your own people who hate you and exclude you because of my name have said, let the Eternal be glorified, that we may see your joy. Yet they will be put to shame. Hear that uproar from the city, hear that noise from the temple. It is the sound of the Eternal repaying his enemies all they deserve. Before she goes into labour, she gives birth. Before the pains come upon her, she delivers a son. Who has ever heard of such things? Who has ever seen things like this? Can a country be born in a day, or a nation be brought forth in a moment? Yet no sooner is Zion in labour than she gives birth to her children. When I bring to delivery, says your God. Do I bring the moment of birth and not give delivery, says the Eternal? Do I close up the womb? Rejoice with Jerusalem and be glad for her, all you who love her. Rejoice greatly with her, all you who mourn over her. For you will nurse and be satisfied at her comforting breasts. You will drink deeply in delight in her overflowing abundance. For this is what the Eternal says. I will extend peace to her like a river, and the wealth of nations like a flooding stream. You will nurse and be carried on her arm and dandled on her knees. As a mother comforts her child, so I will comfort you, and you will be comforted over Jerusalem. As the new heavens and the new earth that I make will endure before me, declares the Eternal, so will your name and descendants endure. From one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, all mankind will come and bow down before me, says the Eternal. We praise you, Eternal One, our God, Sovereign of the universe. You have been our source of strength and righteousness throughout the ages. The faithful God whose word is deed, and whose every word is true and just. For the Torah, for the privilege of worship, for the prophets, for this Sabbath day which you, Eternal One, have given us for holiness and rest, for honour and beauty, we thank and praise you, O Eternal One, our God. May all the living praise your name now and forever. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath.
Please stand for the prayers for the community.
Eternal God, we ask your blessing on our Queen Elizabeth and all the royal family, as well as those who govern our country. Guide them and all who govern our country with the spirit of wisdom and compassion, so that they care for the citizen and the stranger and bring benefit to all the inhabitants of our country and the world. Bless all our brothers and sisters of the house of Israel. Bless our congregation and all its members. Be with those who seek your presence and all who are in need of healing, spiritual or physical. Let them know that they are near to comfort and sustain them. May peace exist in the state of Israel, soon and in our time. May you, Eternal God, grant blessing to her, establish as an aid all free and home to the oppressed. May its leaders and citizens be inspired with a faithfulness to the aims of its founders, and may the country be endued with the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice always. May this Sabbath renew our energy to build and sustain a better world and to deepen our guidance of so much that surrounds us. And let us say, Amen.
We continue in the middle of page 486. Yahalalu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado. Odo haaretz v'shamayim, ve'yarem kerem ve'amo, te'ila v'chol chasida, livnei Yisrael, amrovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Behold, a good doctrine has been given you. Do not forsake it. Please sit down. I guess you're all waiting with bated breath for my sermon. Well, don't hold your breath because we're going to go straight into Elena. Oh, sorry, I invited you to sit down, but please stand up again. And it has been said, the eternal God shall rule over all the earth. On that day, the eternal God shall be one, and known to be one. Life is finite. Like a candle, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty. Then it fades. Its substance is consumed, and it is no more. Yet we do not despair, for we know that we are more than a flickering flame. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and light, of death and life. And on this Shabbat, we announce the passing of Joan Joseph, sister-in-law of Howard Joseph. And we remember the outsides of Adrian Harris, husband of Maureen Harris and brother of Ruth Hoffman, Mary Joseph, mother of Howard Joseph, Stephen Kay, father of Deborah Porton, Johann Oppenheimer, father-in-law of Corinne Oppenheimer, Laura Sogbrower, sister of Frank Hellner, and Sheila Staker, my mother and grandmother of Eamon. As in our hearts we name our loved ones, we pray that the divine presence will comfort us and all who mourn, as we say together, Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach yidutei v'yamlik malkutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon, uv'chayei b'kol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam ulamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithada v'yitale v'yithalal shemei b'kudashah b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma ve'imru amen. יהי שלום רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל בני אדם, ואמרו amen. Please sit down.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
A very warm welcome to Finchley Progressive, whether you are joining us from home or here in the sanctuary, whether you are an old hand or a relative newcomer, a special welcome to people who are beginning to return back to the sanctuary after an absence of some time. It's wonderful to see people returning to synagogue. And if you're here for the first time or as a visitor, a very warm welcome to you too. And an enormous thank you to everybody who led and participated in the service today. Not for the first time, I get to reflect on how lucky we are to have so many skilled staff and lay leaders who can step into the breach in the absence not only of our rabbi, but this morning of Alex, who we think of, who was going to be leading the service, but who's not well this morning. I know the thoughts of all the congregation are with Alex. But huge thanks to Franklin and to you, Dean, for stepping in and leading the service to us today, to John for reading the Torah for us and for illuminating it in such a distinctive way. I'm sure we will all remember that vividly. To everyone who participated in the service, and especially to people who took on something new or tried something a bit uncomfortable. Thank you to Hugh and to Karen. Thank you, Corinne. So a few community announcements. Tomorrow morning is the first of two linked Cafe Ivrea sessions. Cafe Ivrea is at 10 o'clock, as usual, and these two sessions are going to be looking at the work that we've done in Finchley Progressive as part of Barnet Citizens to try and bring about improvements in our borough. And this is as we come up towards our Citizens Accountability Assembly in Barnet, which is going to be on the 27th of April, and I'll come back to that later. But tomorrow's session at 10 is about Barnet Citizens, Refugees and Our Story. We'll be looking at the work of FPS and Barnet Citizens that we've done together with Syrian refugees, that we are doing now with Afghan and Ukrainian refugees, and that we want to do in the future, but we will need a little bit of help from the council. So we're looking, as I said, looking ahead to the Barnet Citizens Assembly, where we're going to be asking them to raise their ambitions and commit to resettling 50 Afghans to match the work that we did together, resettling Syrian refugees. So to hear more about that, that's 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, Cafe Ivrea. On Monday, the Monday Afternoon Club is meeting. The clue is in the name. Even though it said in the email that this was going to be in the morning, it is in fact 3 to 5. The Monday Afternoon Club is 3 to 5 on Monday. It will be hosted by the irrepressible Barbara Schulman with entertainment from our own wonderful Natasha Kafka. So do come along, 3 to 5, not in the morning. I won't list all of the regular activities that we have, which are continuing as usual this week, our Hebrew classes and our morning meditation sessions. But Monday at 7:30, the Rosh Chodesh group is meeting. Iris Singer will be leading a discussion on the women in black. There's no delving class this week on Wednesday. It's paused for the Passover holiday. We have a really full programme of events for Passover, and you'll be glad to know I'm not going to list all of them. You can find them in the community email. But it kicks off on Tuesday, April the 12th, with activities for children. Festival Explorers meets at 3 and Shabbatot at 3:30. Our hybrid communal Seder is on April the 16th at 6. It's fully booked now for attendance in person. If you want to join a waiting list for attendance in person, contact Zoe, but there is no limit to the number of us who can attend online, so do join us otherwise online. For other Passover events, see the community email. So looking a little further ahead, on the 22nd of April, Shabbat Resold, featuring our wonderful Dean, of course, is celebrating its 15th anniversary. So I don't need to explain to all of you how important a moment that is for us in our synagogue and how much Shabbat Resold has meant to us. On the 27th of April at 6:30, the Barnet Citizens Accountability Assembly will be held at Middlesex University, and information will be going out about that. It starts at 6:30. We'll be breaking the Ramadan fast with an iftar at 8:30, which will be catered by some of our own Syrian refugee families. And we will have the leaders of the Labour, Conservative and Lib Dem groups on the council there, and we will be putting to them the things that we would like them to commit to in terms of refugees, mental health and clean air. So please do come along to that, because our ability to effect change in the borough depends on being able to show that we represent people and that we care. Right, so where have I got to? So I wanted to say I'm really aware at the moment we are in the middle of Lent. We're entering on a very special festival season for us. Schools broke up yesterday for the Easter and Passover festivities. I'm thinking particularly today of all our Muslim brothers and sisters who begin Ramadan today. As we approach Passover and we're thinking about the story of our flight from oppression in Egypt to freedom, I just want us that we all remember that we know what it is to be oppressed and to be strangers in a strange land. So I want on this occasion to remind you that if you are considering hosting Ukrainian refugees through the Homes for Ukraine sponsorship scheme, or if you might be able to support and help Ukrainians coming to Barnet by volunteering in another capacity, please do sign up, and the link to sign up is in the community email. That's it for today. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
For a change, our service does not conclude with Adon Olam. We'll be finishing with Ein Keloheinu, which you can find on page 528. Please stand for the final blessing. Our God and God of our ancestors, bless us with the threefold benediction of the Torah. May God bless you and keep you. May God look kindly upon you and be gracious to you. May God reach out to you in tenderness and give you peace. Shabbat Shalom. Please stay for Kiddush. Please stay online for Kiddush. Do we have Kiddush? Oh, it's over. Come and get it.
Sorry about that fourth, the ending. Yeah. It was the longer one, it was the fifth one, was the longer one.
Oh, yeah.
dropped out.
Oh, okay. No, no.
Wish you luck.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, 3 years.
3 years, yeah. Yeah, I know. Time flies. It's 4th my day next month. Yeah, just flies. Okay, are we ready? Has everybody got? Have you got at home? ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. אמן. לחיים. Oh, that was wine. Yeah, someone did a switcheroony on me. I don't usually drink alcohol, so I'm going to be on my ear for the rest of the day. Right, now we're going to make the blessing over the... Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. You can eat now.